What is up, guys? Welcome back to Time with JJ. Okay. Hey guys, my name is Judah. I'm a Southbridge Students alumni, so kind of awesome. I wanted to just personally let you know that today is the last day to send in your trick shots to Danny for the Trick Shot Challenge. I'm going to need you to send them to the email that pops up on the screen right here. Thank you for that. You're the best. Oh yeah, let's go! And now, to this week's challenge.
It's bird, sprinkle the fleur, sprinkle the fleur on the door. Sprinkling the fleur, and then move the do. It's hurt the good door. Yeah, the door. Oh, the circle. This is the roll the door. This is not to do.
All right, you guys saw the challenge. Go ahead and make some cookies and give them away to a friend, a neighbor, and for every batch of cookies, not a single cookie, for every batch you give away, I'll keep my beard dyed a color of your choice. So send in your color choices too. And before we shift over to our message and testimony before that, I want you guys to remember to join us on the Zoom call at the end. The link will be in the chat on the side there. And so looking forward to seeing you.
What's up, guys? So I just want to share time with you guys when I realized God was bigger. And so for me, that was the summer going into my junior year of high school. I had been struggling with an eating disorder for about 6 years. And that was because I had dealt with a lot of rejection growing up. But my antidote for that was to just control what I was eating. And it started out with just limiting my food, which then led into much bigger problems. But ultimately what I was doing was I was looking for love and I was looking for acceptance. And I thought that I could do that by controlling my body. And obviously that never came because I went on for about 6 years. But then I was at this event this summer going into my junior year of high school where the gospel was presented in a way that I hadn't seen it presented before. And this man had a cross, and every time he named off a stronghold or some sort of sin, he painted what looked like blood on the cross. And that broke me. I realized at that moment that God was so much bigger and that ultimately we are accepted by him with where we are right now, that we don't have to be this perfect being because we can't be this perfect being, and that Jesus loves us. And that was the moment when I realized that God was so much bigger.
Have you ever had an experience where you saw that God was more? What do you think of when you think of God? Don't think of what your parent, pastor, teacher, or friend might say. Think of what you really feel. You don't have to answer out loud, so be honest. What really comes to mind? What does your life show that you think? Most of us are satisfied with a small view of God. I want you to know, God is more.
Is God near to or far from his creation? We all know the Sunday school answer that God is everywhere. God is with me right now as well as with you. But sometimes we feel like God is distant. We're unsure if God really hears my prayers. I'm really unsure if God actually knows or cares about what's going on in my life. Or I'm unsure if the Bible really has something to say to me today. These questions and these doubts often lead people to treat God and believe that God is distant from us. We treat God like he is a distant creator or that he is a distant clockmaker. Here's what I mean. A clockmaker builds a clock makes sure all its pieces are working together rightly, starts it up, winds it up, and then lets it go. And the clock should work without really much effort or work from the clockmaker after that. In the same way, people treat God like he created the world. He built the world, made sure all its pieces were working rightly, then wound it up and let it go. And so God doesn't actually interact with the world. He exists, but he is distant from it, and the world just kind of works by itself on its own. I want you guys to know today that God is more than a distant clockmaker. He is more than a distant creator. He is intimately involved in his creation and desires to have a relationship with each of us. We're going to read from Hebrews chapter 1. Hebrews says, "Long ago, God spoke many times and in many ways to our ancestors through the prophets. And now, in these final days, he has spoken to us through his Son. God promised everything to the Son as an inheritance, and through the Son, he created the universe. The Son radiates God's own glory and expresses the very character of God, and he sustains everything by the mighty power of his command. When he had cleansed us from our sin, he sat down in the place of honor at the right hand of the majestic God in heaven." According to these verses, at no point in history has God been distant from his creation. God has always revealed himself to his creation through his word. In the Old Testament, God spoke through the prophets. But now, in the New Testament, God speaks to us through his Son. These verses tell us that Jesus, the Son of God, was actually there at creation, and the whole world was created through him. These verses also tell us that Jesus reveals the character of God. That means that when we see Jesus, we see God. The creator of the whole universe actually came into our world, came into the world, and lived among us. Jesus shows that God is not a distant creator. Jesus shows that actually God is very near and came to live among us and came to reveal himself through his Son. And not only has he become near to us, not only has he revealed himself through his Son, but the words of his Son actually hold authority for our lives today. Because Jesus is the creator of the whole universe, because he is the revelation of God to us, because he ultimately has authority over all creation, what he says actually holds authority in our lives today. So the words of Jesus are not suggestions. They're not general guidelines for how people should live. No, but the words of the Bible, the words of Jesus, actually hold authority in how we are called to live. God actually expects obedience from us because he is an authority as our creator, and he is near to us and cares for each of us. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, who has authority in our lives? Is it God? Is it his word? Or is it ourselves? Or maybe something else that has authority over us, that controls how we live and how we interact with other people and how we live our lives every day? And the other question we need to answer for ourselves is, do we believe God is near? Do we really believe that Jesus came to us, that God has revealed himself to us? Or do we think God is distant and that we really can't know him? And that's a question that you need to answer for yourself and that we all need to ask ourselves, is do we really believe God has come near to us? As we split into groups, I want you guys to talk through these questions. Do you ever believe that God is distant? Read John 1 through 3 together, and 1:14. What do these verses tell us about God's relationship with us? And who or what holds authority over your life?